15, well, I would say one thing about the disability culture, especially being a young person and being disabled. It's sort of like you have a maturation of something equivalent to dog years, you know. You're put in a situation that presents many difficulties, many obstacles, and you have to deal with them wherever it happens to you at whatever age. We know Ken's story and how he had dealt with it. But probably around the age of 15, my brother also has a disability. You know, I was talking, my brother's about 5 years older than me, and I was talking about, you know, what would my life be like, you know, many years down the road. That's what young people around that age are starting to think about. But as I said, accelerated as a person with a disability. And some of the futures that people with disabilities, I went to the Henry Viscardi School, which was a school for children that were medically fragile, disabled, and could not attend their area schools. And we all had to start thinking about things as in what our lives would be in our independence. How would we live our lives when we were in our adult years? So sometimes what you would be thinking about is, would you be able to live on your own, right, without the assistance of your parents, right? You would start looking at it in that way. You would start thinking, am I going to be able to have a job? Am I going to be able to afford things? Am I going to ever own a home? People didn't think at that time about all these greater things that the kids at their age would think about. How much money I'm going to make, what neighborhood I'm going to live in, okay? All these grandiose things that people sometimes take for granted, people with disabilities have to start thinking in different levels. And around 15, my brother told me, my brother had gone to Viscardi in the center, not the school, for vocational rehabilitation services when he was going to college. And he told me, he goes, you know, I met a guy there that uses a wheelchair like you do, and he has a motorized wheelchair like yours. You know, I said, I haven't seen this guy at Viscardi. I've been there, you know, 5 years of my life, right? So Viscardi had many programs to try to bridge kids to careers and what would, you know, like your outside life out of school. And we had this speakers bureau, right? So they did things like, you know, like brought somebody in that climbed a mountain, right? And, you know, that's nice. It's motivationally, you know, has some kind of value, right? But, you know, I'm not going to climb a mountain, okay? And I'm not looking to climb a mountain, okay? Not one of my dreams. One of the other ones was, you know, wheelchair ballet, right? So, Dr. Rosie, do you think I would be doing wheelchair ballet?
Very graceful, Judge.
Not that graceful. But all of these things were just not, they were great and they were motivationally valuable, but they weren't hitting a note for me and what I thought I needed until one day. So who is that person? Ken Kunken comes in to speak at an assembly, and I get to meet this person that my brother had spoken about. And, you know, automatically he spoke about all those things that were very important to the students, right? How he lived his life, how he lived on a day-to-day basis, okay? How he got up in the morning, how he hired people to assist him, how he got to school, right? Now this was prior to him going to law school, right? So that was something that right there that Ken automatically became a role model for him, right? And I could see, like, you know what? See, that's something I think I could do, you know? So later on in life, I go to college, somewhat successful. Maybe my grades didn't indicate that. But you know, as I was saying, when you're starting out in life, you know, when you're starting out in that career mode, people could, you know, have these ideas about what they could become, right? So if you told me when I was 15 or 20 that I'd be a district court judge, right, I would have told that person, like, you seriously have to stop doing the drugs you're doing. That would have not been on anywhere near what I thought I could have achieved. But as I went on, I went to school, I graduated, I had some time out of school that I did not get into my career, it was supposed to be accounting. And I heard about a guy that went to law school. And this guy, Ken Kunken, he went to law school. And I had done some advocacy after I graduated from Albany State. And people said I had an aptitude and I should go to law school. And I went Hofstra University Law School, just like Ken did, right? So fast forward, I have my internship with the DA's office in 1990. And I'm with Bill Wallace and Mary Buna, right? They were the DAs I was in. I got the second seat of trial that year. But I found out that Ken Kunken had a bank robbery trial, right? So, you know, I did what I always did when I was younger. I got lost, right? And I found myself in that courtroom. And I wanted to see that. You know, that was very important to me. Because, you know, people with disabilities just didn't have those kind of role models. They just did not, you know. And Ken was that. So I went in there and you know, nobody was looking for me. I was just an intern, right? So I watched it and it was amazing because I could see when they pulled the jury out that the defense attorneys were countlessly making like accusations that, well, a juror number 3 is looking at his wheelchair, you know, like that. And they were like, oh, well, you know, it's sympathetic. And I'm sitting there like, where are these guys coming from to make these kind of accusations of somebody that is just doing their job, right? And thank God we have great judges in Nassau County because that's exactly what they said. Mr. Kunken is doing his job, right? But the greatest thing was, it was like, I sat back and I go, these guys are scared of us, you know? This is pretty cool. But I did not have, unfortunately, I did not get to start at the DA's office. I went into a career, as Dan was saying, in the town of Hempstead for about 23 years. I did a job there that I thought was very rewarding. I would have liked to have been under, you know, Ken's tutelage there, but it just wasn't meant to be. But I'll tell you, all throughout my time, even with the town of Hempstead, I could always call on Ken, and Ken would always have this really good sage advice for me when I was in some sort of blockade in my career, you know. And there were some times I think I even said some things that helped him out, which was like an unbelievable thing for me to even think that I could help him. But it did happen, you know. And he kept on pushing me to become a judge. And I never stopped attempting to push the political leaders to nominate me. I never stopped it. And even though in 2005 I ran and I lost, and in 2012 I ran again, I lost again, right? But 2014, I kept on going, and I was able to be elected. And I think that Ken was probably more proud of me than I was of myself, you know? Because even when I think about the possibility of doing something else, he says, no, you're doing great as a judge. Now, I don't know if anybody knows about Ken's book, right? You definitely know about Ken's book, but in keeping with what I was talking about, disability culture, it's probably one of the best reads that I've been able to see in a long time that gives a really good day-to-day type of hour-to-hour account of what it is to be disabled. I mean, his injury happened at a time that was about 10 years before I was even, you know, thinking about any of this stuff. And he was such the trailblazer that once I got the Hofstra, it was all set up for a guy like me. right? So I have to, be very grateful and thankful of that. But the other reason why it's one of my favorite books is because I'm mentioned on page 440 to 441. So, there's not a stage in my life that I can't call on the life of Ken, and that I've been able to look at him as this role model for me. So I thank you so very much. I thank Anna and the boys for making his life so fantastic and what it is, and what it's going to be, because you're going to have a great retirement, Ken. You can enjoy yourself. Hopefully, like my wife will never let me retire, I'll tell you that. Dr. Viscardi, I don't know if anybody knows of Dr. Viscardi, but Dr. Viscardi, just to give you a brief understanding of Dr. Viscardi, he was a person that was like pretty much the ground floor of disability rights in this country. He had a relationship with Eleanor Roosevelt that really just went through every other president until I believe Jimmy Carter, that commissioned him to do something, whether it was educational or vocationally, for people with disabilities. And it's great that Ken had that encounter with him while he worked at Viscardi, because as he said in the book, how Dr. Viscardi was somebody who really pushed his career, and was so proud of him. But Dr. Viscardi did the same thing with me, and I'm just so proud to serve with Ken on the Viscardi board and the school board, and doing things now for kids so that, as Dr. Viscardi would say, to do something for the generation who is upcoming. Dr. Viscardi had this poem that was his favorite poem, that kind of like is coined as the credo of the disabled. And in closing, I'd like to read it. I just think it's just very appropriate. I read this at my swearing in 10 years ago. It was a poem that was found on the field at the Battle of Gettysburg, of an unknown soldier had written it. It goes, "I ask God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I ask for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I asked for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I asked for power that I might have the praise of women and men. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all things that I might enjoy in life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for, but everything I hoped for. Almost despite myself, my own spoken prayers were answered. I am among women, all men, women and men, most richly blessed." Thank you very much.